Before we begin today, I feel it's important to just address, a lot has happened since I last uploaded a video. The most important thing is I bought a house. I now own this house. That's no small feat nowadays. But I think that the reason it's pertinent to this video specifically is that everything I'm about to say to you is still entirely true as it has always been for every video. Hello and welcome back to the definitive Starship review series without access to a proper table. That right there has a drawer, which makes it a desk, or at the very least, an improper table. Where today we will be taking a look and I almost said the USS, but the Yosemite, not USS. That's only runabouts, isn't it? Runabouts and starships. But anyway, yes, the Yosemite Shuttlecraft from Star Trek Lower Decks, which, of course, I'm pretty sure everything on a California class is named after something from the glorious state of California, in this case, the Shuttle National Park. But yeah, this is a very nice model. This is one of the unreleased models. So when Eaglemoss, it went under, it had a few models in production and basically some that were done. Like it had built them all ready for shipment. They were just going to release in the month or two after it went bankrupt. I'll give the abridged version. Eventually, another company called Master Replicas came along, bought all of Eaglemoss's stock, and had been selling them off. I think they're basically done selling it off at this point. And yeah, that includes some unreleased models like this. So you can't get this anymore unless it's on the secondhand market. No link in the description. You'll have to go to eBay or something to look around. You can't have this one. But yeah, we are just going to go through some of these unreleased ships that Master Replicas released. But I just haven't gotten around to because of, life. And life, yes, I have the money for a house, a Lego town, and that, but I still don't have a proper table. And you may be thinking, how come you don't have a proper table if you've got all this stuff? But I might argue that the reason I can afford all this stuff is because I don't buy things like tables. This. We're getting sidetracked. The Yosemite, which is a shuttle they used a lot. I had a look at Memory Alpha. It's not the one that they've been all doing up in Lower Decks, which is a running gag. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But yeah, it's using quite a lot of things. But most notably, it crash landed when in the episode where they met robot Jeffrey Combs. And it got replaced at the start of season 3 with the Yosemite 2, which of course is named after the famous national park Yosemite 2. The Lower Decks models, Eaglemoss made them to look a little more animated, and I want to kind of avoid the word cartoony, but it wants to mimic the animation style of the show. And this one I feel does it a lot more, a lot better. Not to say the others were worse, but I get the feel that this is animated. I've just gone and plucked it out of the screen than the Titan and the Cerritos. I think the scale might have something to do with it. This is, of course, a much smaller ship than the Cerritos and the Titan being a shuttle, but it's still about the same size model. So, the kind of lines, the drawn-in aspect of these details really pops, and actually I think it gives it quite a striking look. I'm quite happy with it. I'm realizing the top is pretty plain, which again kind of has to do with the animated feel. Look at the bottom's got a lot more. That's more the fault of the designers of Lower Decks than Eaglemoss, but it means that the way I usually record these, you don't see a lot when I hold it like this, do you? I gotta twist it. So much for a bog standard model I can test a new setup on. But yeah, as you can see, it's got the yellow striping, which in Lower Decks means it's kind of got an engineering focus. I think that's just because more the Cerritos is an engineering focused ship than the shuttle itself. I don't know for sure. I'd have to go in and check if they have like red and blue shuttles as well. But it looks very good on this model. I really like the kind of simplistic, very white with just enough color to make it pop from the turbos and then the big just stripe going across pretty much the entire shuttle. And as well, the impulse engines, just a little gray. Normally they'd be doors from like other shuttles, but it's probably just decorative or maybe like a hatch to get it some sort of utility stuff. But yeah, a lower decks, probably more so than any other series. You could make a case for Picard, but I really love and admire how it kind of sticks to the era of Starfleet that it's in. You know, Prodigy's gone off and done something way weird and kind of justified it with experimental tech. But Lower Decks is intentionally, very recognizably, that 24th century, maybe a bit more mid than late 24th century, if we really want to get nitpicky. But this feels like a pretty natural evolution of the sort of things we'd see on even the Enterprise E or like Defiant. Just a bit chunkier. You know, I guess the Cerritos is that engineering support secondary class. It's not the sleekest, but that's what it's supposed to be. You know, it's got it can actually, hey, look at that, it can land, we don't even need you. But yeah, it can land very functionally. I mean, it's a very solid shuttlecraft design, and I'm quite a big fan of it. Of course, we've got these huge windows, not transparent, just kind of drawn on black, which I don't know if it's how they usually do it in the show for distance shots, but I think it easily helps with the animated look. If this was glass and you could properly see inside it, you'd probably have to make it a little bit more real. It also would probably be a lot more expensive, and this was a company that actually had already gone bankrupt at this point. Eaglemoss, rip in peace. But hey, at least I can start collecting these modular buildings again. Look for those on the channel. Yeah, beyond that, you've got pretty simple, just a shuttlecraft door. I would imagine kind of opens like that, but I could see it coming down and forming like a little ramp, and then this is flush with the floor. Well, it does this basically, and you walk down here and then you're flush with the floor. I don't know. I don't pay that much attention to Lower Decks. What looks like a ram scoop? Is that what they're called? In aviation terms, for like a jet, it sucks in a bunch of air and it accelerates it to the supersonic speeds, super fast speeds. I don't know. I don't really work in actual jets. I work in these magic impulse things, which of course doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a shuttlecraft. I mean, like maybe there's some kind of jet functionality up here in the atmosphere. Like this is actually some sort of horrific aerodynamics nightmare. Like this has to be getting things for a reason. But it does kind of it looks cool. I mean, there could feasibly very easily be a reason. And so it's fine for me, you know. I quite like it. It helps break up what would otherwise be a very flat model, especially with the animated style that they're going in, both for the show and this physical thing in my hand right here. Underneath, I said before, I like there's a lot of detail. You don't usually get this, at least on Eaglemoss models. For the shuttlecrafts, they tend to be very plain. I think Shuttlepod 1 might have one. Most of mine are still packed away. I can't easily go and just get Shuttlepod 1. But yeah, even in the show, of course, because you usually don't see this, they're very bland. You know what? Because it's animated, you're not working with physical models. And of course, Shuttlepod 1 also was not a physical model. You can get more shots with the underneath, and you can be more dynamic. You don't just have to poke a big metal rod so you can balance your model and film it. I bet that has to do with part of the reason. But I already talked about this. I mean, yeah, it makes for kind of a boring model if you're going to display it down here. But, you know, the answer to that is this is just a model that you display more at eye level or even higher. Like, this is a model you could very easily have above eye line, which I think the Cerritos you'd also want higher. The Titan's probably pretty close to eye line, but it wouldn't hurt. So yeah, you've kind of got a natural place in the shelf for your Lower Decks style ships. I might take advantage of that. Looking over there in the background of where my webcam is. That's a pretty nice spot for this. Yeah, I'm going to set that up after this video. Yeah, moving on to the turbos. They're quite nice. I mean, again, really sticking to that 24th century. I mean, that's just the Enterprise D, those nacelles you would get all the time. But, with a lower deck spin of this little round kind of lipstick-esque thing. Also in the back, again, a problem with all my collection being in boxes, because again, we moved. I think this is the only model that has a box that is not in the box right now, is this one in my hand. But yeah, I don't know. It's good. I mean, it's their own little mark. There's no reason you can't do this. It is something that kind of feels like change for the sake of change, especially as I said before, lower decks maybe feels a tad mid 24th century as opposed to late. Like a lot happened, especially over the Dominion War and the Borg stuff, and lower decks is a callback to pre that, as opposed to the sort of steam runners and Akiras where it actually is in the timeline, which isn't bad. I mean, especially if the Cerritos is an older ship, it's a support ship. You can even make the argument, I think I've made this argument, that the Federation is kind of looking back to that century of peace and prosperity, maybe distancing itself from the war aesthetic, even if not the preparedness. So yeah, they're pretty good. They're very lipstick though. You could easily sell like some sort of lipstick thing, just in basically lower decks turbo style. You've got, of course, the Cerritos registry there, and I always talked about. I assume this is like kind of like a fire truck, you open these up and you can get in there. It's not a doorway, especially seeing those are the impulse engines. This has got to be an access for like Rutherford and Tindy to get in here and, mess with engine-y parts. Because, yeah, look, this whole back section, kind of where the air scoop, ramjet, whatever thing starts, looks like it's basically engine. They're not the biggest shuttles. I get, cockpit, some sort of back room, maybe there, the whole thing, like, I don't know, supplies, something, then engine. As for the model itself, there aren't really many windows to misalign, but it's pretty well done. Even these, black inlays along all these details. I guess it's a little misaligned there. I guess it helps it's white on black, and they're not very well indented, so, this is really good. I mean, it's not technically perfect. I've only now noticing kind of some of the flaws on this doorway as well. But hey, for Eaglemoss, this is absolutely fantastic. There's a few little bumps as well on some of these real smooth things. You can see some of it's probably dirt, but like, I don't know how they actually make these, if they're molded. That looks like it might be some sort of mold injection point. And I noticed down here, there's also something similar. But yeah, it's very good. I'm very happy with the model. It just kind of pops with that whole animated style. And it sits on the stand really well as well. I mean, a lot of the shuttles, the smaller scale ones, just have kind of this flat base, which this is. And this is a flat model. But I think the fact that the model's so big and not, that tiny really helps, and it makes it work. And it's, the turbos are going to catch, so it's actually less likely to just fall down if you go bonk bonk. But I think that might be all I have to say on it. It's new Eaglemoss. It's new as you can get, so it didn't have a magazine. If it did, I lost it, but they stopped those magazines a little bit before they went under. But yeah, very nice shuttle design, a very nice model of the shuttle design, and I hope you enjoy getting back into Starships. People seemed, when I asked what people wanted me to focus on, half of the results were Starship. So look at that. We're doing Starships. It wasn't the outro that I had forgotten the original outro ages ago. So I'm just going to say thank you all for watching. You can look forward to more of these, of course, getting into more proper videos, those main videos. Like I want to do one about how the Universal Translator works. Explanation, but kind of fun. You'll see. And then you can vaguely see in the background here, I want to do, I think, once a month, one of these Lego sets, like the modular buildings for now, because people seemed interested in those. And look they're pretty cool. That didn't work like I thought how it would. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time!